And today we're continuing a series called The Time Is Now. We started last Sunday, and we're talking about a person in the Bible who has a very strange name, or at least I think he had a very strange name, named Haggai. And so what I want to talk about today as we get started is this. I just want you to think about something. Have you ever started something, and then right after you started it, or maybe you did it for a while, and you did something, and it felt like you did it for a while, and then you just didn't see the progress, and you got kind of discouraged. Anybody ever had that happen? It's like you put in the work. I mean, anybody been on a diet plan like that? Like you just eat that. Remember that cabbage soup diet that they had for a long time? I remember we quit that the first day, so I'm not a good example of that. But me and Marie tried that, and then we were like Taco Bell. You know, that's what happened to us. And that's been a long time ago. But have you ever tried that where you're like, you really did get serious about it, and you are following all the rules, and then you look at the scale, and you're like, you didn't see the results, or maybe it even went the other way because maybe your body, your metabolism, and then or you started to do it, and then this other person can come in, eat anything they want, and never gain a pound. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is up with that? Or you started a gym, or you started whatever, or you started a job, or you tried it with your finances, and then it's like, hey, you're trying it so hard, but every time you do, it just feels like, hey, every time I take one step forward, it feels like I'm getting knocked 2 steps back. Anybody ever had that happen? And it's like you just feel like, I'm just going to quit. You ever thrown in the towel? You ever done it with church? Anybody, you go, hey, man, I've been trying this church thing, and I thought I would be further than I was along right now. You know what I mean? It's like I'm trying to do this godly thing. Maybe you woke up and you're starting to do a quiet time, or maybe you're reading the Bible with us, and then all of a sudden, your spouse is there, you know, or whatever, you know. Or you argued on the way to church this morning. Anybody? And you're like, I thought this church thing was supposed to change my life, and I thought I would be further than I am, and I'm starting to get a little discouraged. Or maybe you're watching online because you didn't make it today, okay? We're welcoming you guys too, and that's okay. But it happens, right? And so what we want to talk about today is sometimes that happens where you get a little bit discouraged, and you go, hey, you know what? What do I do when I get discouraged? Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about that. If you want to turn with me, Haggai chapter 1 is what we're going to look at today. Before we go to where we're at today, I just want to kind of review where we've been. Last week we talked about that Haggai came at a time in Israel, if for those of you that don't know who he is, and that would be not unusual, he was a prophet to Israel, and he came at a time where they were in captivity. They had just come out of captivity. What that means is that they had sinned against God. The prophets had come and warned them. And then another nation came in, Babylon came in and decimated all their things. It's basically like modern day, if we were to have a terrorist or another nation, probably another more powerful nation, come in and nuke our capital. Imagine what that would feel like. We see all of our stuff in ashes as they carry us off and say, you're not free anymore. And then for 70 years, they dream of the day to be free. Yeah, we've never been slaves, so we don't know what that feels like to be slaves by another nation and say, you're not the home of the free no more. You're not free anymore. You're Babylonian. You belong to us. You're God. You see what your God's temple is? Your God's temple, we burned it up right in front of you so you would know your God isn't powerful. And you pray for the day that you can one day return. And after 70 years of captivity, they get to come home. Now, they've dreamed of this day. And when they get home, it seems like, you know, you dream of it and you dream of it and you dream of it, and then you finally get out, and then it's not what you thought it would be. Anybody ever had that? It's like we went back, but Solomon's temple, the greatest temple in the world, is not there anymore. All the splendor that we had in Israel isn't like it was. Now the other nations make fun of us, and we said, hey, you know what, the first thing we need to do? We need to honor God because he released us from captivity. So what we're going to do is we'll build a new temple. And so they started to do that, okay? And right on the Temple Mount and all that, they started to build the temple, and then the Samaritans came in and beat them up. Basically, you know, kind of like when you went from elementary school to middle school, and the kids come in and steal your lunch money. You ever had that happen? It's like, well, you're not in elementary school now. You know what I'm saying? You're in middle school, and the kids beat you up and stuff, you know, and they take your lunch money. I never had that happen to me, but yeah, I did. Okay, and then you start doing it to other kids, right? Hurting people hurt people, and that's what you do. But you learn, right? And that's kind of what happened to them. They're taking your lunch money, and now you just go, hey, we're just going to quit. And that's what they did. For 14 years, they quit. And by the way, when you quit trying, the enemy leaves you alone. You know that? When you throw in the towel, anybody ever done that? And then they threw in the towel, and they just said, hey, for 14 years, what'd they do? They built their own houses. And they said they built paneled houses, which means they were building huge houses for themselves. Guess what? The Samaritans didn't care. As long as you don't build that temple, long as you don't do anything, we'll leave you alone. And they did for 14 years. Enter Haggai, okay? This is when Haggai comes. God basically says, time out, right? It's like in a football game. You're like, hey, it's going the wrong way. You're just coasting. You guys are not. And the coach is coming out on the field to light you up. And guess who he sends? Haggai, to say, hey, wake up. I didn't send you here to do this. I sent you here to build my house. Now, you're free. You've been here for 14 years. What do you have to say for yourself? Oh, I see. The only thing you've done for the last 14 years is for you. And I had called you to do something. This is what we talked about last week, and you stopped doing it. And so those of you that were here last week, we said, hey, to remember that, what God said, and it was very profound what he said. He said, here's what I want you to do. What you need to do now is, in order to build my temple, he was going to give him some really good advice. He said, here's what you need to do. Go up. Yeah, see, some of you guys know, right? Go up to the mountain, cut down the timber. Everybody else that hadn't been here is going, what in the world's going on? And build my house, okay? Everybody got that? That's pretty much like a duh statement. It's like, well, I wish we had thought of that. I mean, but he's going, hey, you know what it takes? You got to start doing the work. Stop talking and start doing. And that's kind of what we talked about last week. And that's exactly where we pick up the story today. So this is what happened to them, okay? They went up to the mountain, they cut down the timber, they started to build God's house, and that's where we're picking up on today. Haggai chapter 1, verse 13. Then Haggai, the Lord's messenger, gave this message of the Lord to the people. I am with you, declares the Lord. Okay? Verse 14. So the Lord stirred up the spirit of Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel. Hey, don't you like how they name these people? It's like, could we just name them something normal for once? But okay, whatever. Okay. Governor of Judah, and the spirit of Joshua, son of Jehozadak, the high priest, and the spirit of the whole remnant of the people. You know, it took me all week is to say these names, okay. And they came and they began to work on the house of the Lord Almighty. So what happened? He called time out. He said, go up to the mountain, cut down the timber, build my house, and that's exactly what they did. They got fired up. It was basically like the coach came out on the field, he said a couple things, but it was said in the right way. You know what I'm talking about? You ever had somebody light you up, but it was not a bad thing? It was like, you know, you guys, you need to be doing this, and it lit the team up, and now all of a sudden they're on fire, and now they run the next play. Now that's where we want to pick up today, okay? Now, this is not about re-preaching last week's message. Let me tell you what happens to them. They go out, and they get ready to do it, and it's like right after you got out of the huddle and you're playing football, and you're like, we're going to run the next play. And they run the next play, and instead of making 10 yards for the first down, you know what they do? They don't even make 1 yard. They make a half a yard, and they get, pummeled. That's what it feels like. And then the next play, they run it again, and guess what happens? Now the quarterback gets sacked. Well, we're all fired up. You ever seen a team do that? I was on the other team when that happened to another team, and it was very demoralizing. It was like, you know, something bad happened to them. They got all excited. They're all screaming, and the very next play, you sack their quarterback. It's like, they're not, you know, it's like you can get all riled up if you want to. The cheerleaders are all screaming and all this stuff, and it's their homecoming, and you're like, sorry, you guys are going to lose. And that's exactly what it felt like to them. It's like every time we try, we just keep getting knocked down. You ever had that happen? They're getting so discouraged, and the people are just, we just feel so beat up, and that's exactly what happened to them. They started back. You know, it's kind of like recently I went back to the gym. I've been part of Planet Fitness for a while, and I spent time losing weight and stuff, and so I went back, and you ever had that moment where you went to the gym, and then one day later you're fine, 2 days later you're okay, and then 3 days later you can't move your arms? Yeah, that happened. You're like, I don't know if I want to do that, right? And so what happens to them? After 1 month of building, and they didn't make the progress that they thought, you know what they did? They kind of quit after 1 month. You understand how that feels, though? I mean, you can't pick on them, though, right? Have you ever tried that? Hey, I've been working with my kids and working with my kids. I've been doing this thing. I've been trying to save money, and then it just doesn't seem to work out. And you know what? This just doesn't work for me. That's exactly where they're at. They didn't see what they had. So I want us to identify this a little bit today. Haggai chapter 2, we'll skip down to verse 3. It says this. This is God speaking. Who of you is left who saw the house in its former glory? He's talking about the temple of Solomon. Who of you were here when Solomon's temple was here. Now, that's been a long time ago because the captivity was for 70 years, but some of them, it wasn't a whole 70. Some of them left later, so don't think these people are like 100 years old. Some of them had seen it the way it was. How does it look to you now? This is God. This is not funny, is it? Does it not seem to you like nothing? Does this seem to you like nothing? That's basically what he's saying. It's like your progress, it's basically like, hey, you're in the gym and you've been working and working and working, and then the person comes in that's just naturally fit and he just kind of flexes, and you're like, I think I'll just leave. You know what I'm saying? Or in my case, this is why I don't work out with my nephew, because his wife can probably lift more than me because she lifts all the time, you know. And I'm like, I don't mind that he does because he's like 6'4" and 250 pounds of muscle, but I do mind if Alex comes in, his wife that works out with him, and she's stronger. So I was like, I just ain't going to go. I'm never going to find out if she's stronger because I just don't want to know, right? This is how it feels. Are you like nothing? Because here's the thing. Solomon's temple was the greatest temple the world had ever seen to this day. People still look for the ruins of Solomon's temple. Why? Because it was overlaid with pure gold. Gold wasn't even valuable in the time of Solomon. Solomon was the richest, wisest king who's ever sat on the throne of any nation. They said people came from all over the world. The Queen of Sheba came from Africa to come and see the splendor of Solomon's temple. When she got there, you know what she said? The half has not been told of Solomon's glory. And now you come back and you're building it and everybody's going, well, it doesn't look like what was here before. You know what I'm saying? They start comparing you to someone else. You see, everybody's comparing you to Solomon's temple. So there's two things I want you to write down. Here's what causes discouragement, if you didn't know. Number one, comparison. Comparing to other people. Number two, lack of progress. And by the way, they had both. We're trying, but we're just not there yet. Anybody doing that? It's like you've been trying really, really hard. You know, after the first of the year maybe or whenever, you made some New Year's resolutions or you've done some things and you're trying super hard. But the hardest part about the whole thing is not just that you're trying, but that somebody else comes alongside and it's like their progress is a lot more than yours. And then you got the people that are making the comments, right? Oh, I see. Are you trying to lose weight? That's not funny, right? Right? Oh, I see you're out there trying to run on the track. What are you doing, right? I mean, you get there and it's like, it just doesn't, it's not natural. It doesn't feel right. It's just you're trying the things, but you're just not seeing the progress. Or even worse, you've been going along for a while and it's almost like a false hope that you got smacked upside your head. Anybody ever had that happen to you? That all of a sudden, it's like you tried to make the progress, but then it's like one step forward, and now it's like 2 steps back, right? I'm going to get out of debt. We're not going to spend any more money on fun stuff, and we're going to do this, and now you're doing it, and then a real bill comes. You know, I mean, your engine blows up, or something happens, or, you know, whatever. Your kids have problems. And you're like, you know what? I might as well have went out to eat if it's going to be like this. If the ship's going to sink, I might as well, right? If the Titanic's sinking, I might as well go to the buffet and enjoy it on the way down. You know what I mean? That's my thought on it, right? And that's kind of how you feel. And it demoralizes you to the point where you go, I just don't have the passion anymore. I know that happened in my life, and I want to be careful sharing personally today. As I'm thinking about this, I'm going, I don't want you to think this is about saying, well, this message today is not one that you can say, I've got it. You know what I'm saying? So I want to be careful. I want to share some stuff about my life, but I don't want to make it seem like, oh, well, now John's got it. Because those of you that know me, you know that that's not true. Okay? And I don't think anybody does, because life has a way of not letting you have it. But there are some principles that we can learn throughout our life. And one of the ones that I learned was this, is that my job situation was, I had learned something about quitting. I don't know if you've ever quit, but there's something about quitting that just demoralizes you. But that happened to me. I started off, and when we got married, and then we went to Western Branch Community Church, and Jim Wall took me under his wing, and he was going to mentor me to be a pastor. And for a while, I kind of jumped from job to job to job. I was being mentored by him, but I was kind of jumping from job. It was like, if this job didn't work out, then I'd jump to the next one, and I'd jump to the next one. And I tried a couple ones for years. And it doesn't mean that I was just always not sticking to it, but there were several times that I didn't stick to it. And I remember when we went through a very difficult time, and I've told you guys about that before. My wife got post-traumatic stress, and she just couldn't work anymore. And a church was getting ready to hire me. And I just remember being so upset at the lack of progress. It's like, well, I thought I would be here by now. And when I didn't get it, you know what I did? I had jumped from job to job trying to get a silver bullet. I don't know if anybody's ever done that. And so I've left a job where I was getting paid a salary, but because I was in debt, I decided to get full commission. I don't know if anybody's ever done that. I did mortgages at the time when bad credit mortgages were the thing. And I thought I had a huge network of people, and then I found out that I didn't, okay? And I don't know if anybody's ever lived on straight commission. There is not any limit. Let me tell you something about straight commission. There is no limit on how much you can make. Did you know that? It's awesome. This is the ploy for full commission. You will make a lot more than people that are so stupid that just have salaries. But can I tell you something? There's no limit on how little you can make either. And unfortunately, I thought I was smarter than I was, and I definitely didn't have deep pockets, and it takes a while to make sure, because here's what I learned about life. You know, I tell you how life smacked me upside the head? Hey, not everybody does what they say they'll do. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Some people just talk. They don't really mean what they said to you. They don't really mean they're going to help you. They don't really mean any of those things. And life just kind of, and then I was stuck going, oh my gosh, what do I do, right? And then the church thing, oh, they're going to hire me, and then the job didn't really work out. And I just remember being as low as you could possibly go. And you know what I did? I'd quit several jobs, and I quit church. It's true. I did. I went to them, and I was like, you know, my wife went through a very difficult time. I made all the normal excuses. I said all the pat answers. Hey, I need to step back. Anybody ever done that? Need to take some time, and I did. But there was more than that. But I didn't come back anymore. Why? Because it's just a pride thing. If I can't be the leader, if I can't have this, I'm just going to take my toys and go home. And by the way, everybody else's life is blessed, and I'm so sick and tired of hearing about how blessed their life is. I walk to church looking for church, but by the way, I just want to quit because why? Because every time I come into church, it makes me sick to my stomach because you tell me how blessed you are. Be careful with that, okay? It's no problem saying that you're blessed. I get why people do it. But some people doing it are not aware of the other people that are not doing it and blessed. And it's very offensive. I can just tell you, okay? When I walked in church and the guy's smiling, how you doing today? Well, I'm not just good, I'm blessed. I was about ready to punch him in his face. You know what I'm saying? I was like, oh, you are you? Well, I'm not. This ain't the right place for me. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm as low as I can be, and you're blessed, and your God does this, and your God's great, and your God's powerful. Well, my God's not so great. That's how I felt. I'm not blaspheming. Don't relax. Okay? Me and God had this dialogue. I'm good now. God is great. But just be careful not to flaunt that stuff in front of somebody that's going, well, my house just burned down, and your house is so great. I just lost everything I own, and your life is so great. My wife is continuing to struggle, and your life is wonderful, and you can have more kids, and we can't have any more kids. We can't do the things that you're doing. We can't have this stuff, and my life doesn't feel blessed, and I quit. Now, the day the two worlds collide, because for a long time, we were already there, but it was when everybody knew that was the hard part for me. Everybody knows now. So I just want to go into a hole, and that's what I did, okay? I want to tell you how you get past this today. Comparison, you cannot compare. The causes of discouragement are comparison and lack of progress. When you don't see those two things, you're going to be just like them. So don't beat up the people of Haggai's day. They hadn't seen any progress, and the people were making fun of them. You're God's chosen people, right? You used to be great. You used to be the greatest nation on earth, but you're not now. You feel that? You see, you used to be young, and now you're old. You see, you used to be in your prime, and now you're middle-aged. You used to be skinny, and now you're fat. Okay. You know who you are. I'm just playing. You ever seen a person that was so arrogant, and now you look at them, and you're like, 20-year reunion, and you're like, oh, this is funny. Okay. All right. Haggai 2, verse 4. I don't know why I said that. That was weird. Haggai 2, verse 4. Here's God's answer. You want the solution to overcoming comparing? Here is the solution. If you've always been stuck this is the solution for you today. If you're stuck now, if you feel like you're in quicksand, you're going, I'm trying, and as hard as I'm working, I keep sinking, God is about to give you the keys to the kingdom. You ready? This is the verse. Okay, Haggai chapter 2, verse 4. But now, you see, he was just talking to them. Okay, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure you're understanding before we go here, because otherwise you're really going to miss it. Okay, what's happening here is God is coming out, and they've already quit, and it's as though God is coming out, and he's going through Haggai, and he's saying, okay, so you quit. Now what? Oh, by the way, and then God made fun of them, right? I mean, isn't that basically what the verse said right before this? He made fun of them. Were you here during the other glory? You know the temple that I even said, there'll never be another temple like Solomon's. You saw it? Now, look at what you have. You know what they saw? Barely any progress. Look at what you've done. Is this what you had in mind? Is what you've done, what you did has been nothing? Is that who you are? And so he tells them that first. He says what they're all thinking. And then he goes on to give them this. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to take you a while, just like it's taken me a while, and I'm still processing this. I'm a little offended by it too, but, God doesn't care. Okay? He just doesn't care if I get offended at what he says. Okay. But now, be strong, Zerubbabel, declares the Lord. Be strong, Joshua, son of... I can't say the name now. Jehozadak, the high priest. Okay? He's the high priest. Zerubbabel is the king. He's coming at the leadership first. He's going, you're all discouraged. You see, Zerubbabel, first off, I don't know why your mom named you that, but okay, that's going to get you beat up already, okay? King Zerubbabel, King Solomon, King Zerubbabel, what's up? You have a great task in front of you. Be strong. I don't mean to laugh at these words, but I got to tell you, when I'm discouraged and somebody says, it's like the coach saying, next time out, you're not making any progress. You know what you need to do? You need to be strong. Well, if I was strong, we wouldn't be having this problem, right? I can't lift the weight. I'm already discouraged. How does saying be strong help me? It's like saying to a communicator, you know what you need to do? Just go up there and be funny. You can't. It just doesn't work that way. And if that's where you're at, then I really need you to lean in today, because you're going, I don't need another man up lesson, because I already tried that. Remember last week when you said, go up to the mountain, cut down the timber, build my house, says the Lord, and now I tried that and it didn't work? Think I'm out. I think some of you guys, that's right where you're at. And that's why this is a different message than last week. And he's looking at them and he's saying, be strong. Now, you're going to have to know what he means by that in just a minute. But I just want to make sure that I was being honest with the way a lot of people feel, because that's exactly how I felt. Sometimes I still do. God's saying, be strong. Well, I'm not strong. How do you be strong if you're not? I could put this weight up here, and all day long I could try to lift up 1,000 pounds, but I can't do it. Okay, you're getting the picture. Be strong. In all the people of the Lord. This is what he says. Be strong, all you people of the land, declares the Lord, and work. For I am with you, declares the Lord Almighty. I want you to underline, be strong and work. Two things. When you face discouragement, can I tell you what you need to do? Be strong and work. You write it down. Two things you need to do. Be strong and work. Be strong and do the work. There is a principle that we have to get before we finish. I'll finish the thought in a minute, but I want to tell you what the principle is. It's something that is a plumb line in my life. When I do this well, it works. When I don't, it doesn't. Is that this? Successful people do what normal people do. Okay, successful people do consistently what normal people do occasionally. If you want to know what the difference is between a successful person and a normal person or a losing person, a winner does it consistently. The loser doesn't do it at all. They quit, okay? They quit during the process. This is some hard stuff. The be strong part, let me tell you what it means. It means that you have to stay even when you don't see the progress. You know what he's saying? He's saying stop thinking about it, be strong, keep doing the work. Don't quit. Don't quit is what he's saying. Don't quit. I read a book by a guy named Mark Divine. I'd highly recommend him. I don't know that he's Christian, so some of it's a little new agey, but he was a Navy SEAL. And one of the things he said, you want to know what the difference is for a Navy SEAL? He said, typically we're not stronger. I mean, sometimes they are. Mentally, they're stronger. But physically, a lot of times, if you look at them, you're like, I'm sorry, you're just not. They're not always faster. They're not always the smartest. He said, but there is one thing that separates us out, and it's always done through something they call BUDS. And if you guys know about BUDS, this is what every Navy SEAL has in common. You have to pass BUDS training. And it is the time that they put your body to the test to see, are you willing to go further than anyone else? Are you willing to do things that normal people can't do? Well, my leg's broken. Doesn't matter. You don't pass BUDS. If you don't pass BUDS, you don't pass BUDS no matter what. If you pass out, if you drown, they'll revive you, bring you back, and you got to keep going. That's what a Navy SEAL does. You know what they call it? They call it embracing the suck. You can write it down. And what is going to separate you out is whether you're going to do it or not. And the truth is that some of us quit. And here, I mean, if you don't believe it, the Bible teaches the same principle. Galatians chapter 6, verse 9 says this, let us not become weary in doing good. Just so you know, this is a biblical thing. Galatians 6, verse 9, you might need to write it down. I read this in my quiet time this week. It says, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap the harvest if we do not give up. I'll come back to that in just a minute. Can I tell you about my story, how it kind of worked for me? What happened to me is that during that time that I told you where I quit my job, went from job to job to job. I was working commission, that didn't work out. And now I had been unemployed for a month. I also quit church too, by the way. I've been unemployed for a month. And what happened to me is that I went in for a job interview. I'd been in for a lot of job interviews. I knew how to interview. And I'll never forget, and I don't mind using his name because I'm sure he would be fine with me saying it because he said it pretty bluntly. I got an interview at a place called Cherry Carpet with Brad Cherry. He's the owner. They've been there. They're a fourth-generation company. Or it was his dad that started it, but now it's a third-generation company, sorry. And probably his grandkids will take over it one day. And Brad sat there and he looked at me and he said, you know what? Here's the thing, John. You interview really well. And I don't have any doubt you're a good salesman. He said, but when I look at your record, here's what bothers me about you. It's kind of offensive. Here's what bothers me about you. You look like the type that, I see you've worked in a lot of different industries. You look like the type when it gets hard, you know what you're going to do? You might bounce. Or not just hard, but I think you're going to get more opportunities, and I'm afraid that we're going to invest in you, and then you're going to bounce. So I don't know. I don't know if I want to hire you. Now that I know him, I think he used it as a reason to lowball my salary, but that's okay. I learned a lot of valuable lessons from Brad Cherry. But I determined when I went home that day, I was very offended by what he said, by the way. But sometimes, you don't learn anything on a sunny day, right? You don't learn anything by, people are saying stuff that you don't like, and they tap the nerve, and you go, can you believe he said that about me? Can you believe blah, blah, blah? It was true. That's why it hurt so bad. And then that day, God said, you know what you got to do? You need to be strong, and you need to do the work. You see, because I knew that job's not going to pay for all my debt. And I made a commitment that day to say, you know what I need to do? I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to quit. No matter what happens, I'm not going to quit. They might fire me. We might fight. We did. I'm not going to quit. And I had every intention to stay there maybe 6 months, okay, and get another good job. And God provided nothing. And I was there at Cherry Carpet for 10 years, okay? I was. And I never quit until we started the church. That's a true story. I never dreamed in a billion years that that's where I would spend that much time. And I learned more from them than I probably ever learned in a seminary. I did go to Bible college. But I learned more under that than anything else. That said, hey, you know what you got to do? You got to toe the line. You know what you got to do? You got to embrace the suck. You know what you got to do? You've got to be strong and do the work and not quit. Never quit, right? Galatians 6 says this. Galatians 6:9 says, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time you'll reap the harvest if you do not give up. You see, there is a law. I think we got some farmers here somewhere. One of them is Alan Verostic. Is Alan here? I hate to talk about him when he's not here, but I'm going to do it anyway. You are here. That's awesome, Alan. I got another one for you today. Alan is a great gardener, if you guys didn't know, and he grows some great crops in his field. And he gave me permission to share this story several years ago, so I don't know if that still applies, but I don't have a statute of limitations. And so I'm going to share this story, and then we're going to see what happens. But Alan's going to get me back really bad one day. But anyway, but Alan is an amazing gardener, and I will say that for him. Like, if you've ever seen his plants, he's really good at it. And here's the difference. I don't like gardening. That's why I don't do it. Alan likes it, right? I mean, you do like it. And so he enjoys it. So he'll plant the seeds, and then he'll go out there, and his wife was telling me, and she's like, you just have no idea, John. He goes out there, and he talks to them, and he sings to the plants, and he just loves the plants, and he'll go out there every day to watch it grow. Now, anybody know anything about growing stuff, you know, if you're watching it, it won't grow. Does that make sense? So you have to leave it alone for a while. Because why? Because here's the law of the harvest, you don't reap things in the same time that you sow them. So in other words, you sow the seed, and then you have to wait a while. Everybody understands this, right? And then it grows up. It's very important, okay? So Alan would go out there and look at it every day. And then one day he went out, right? And this is right after he planted it, like just I don't think it was long after he planted it. And he goes out there, and everything's full grown. And he couldn't believe it. I mean, he had big squash. He had huge zucchinis. He had big cucumbers and whatever else that you planted out there. And he just couldn't believe it. And he was just like, he was like, just, he couldn't believe it. And he goes out there and he picks one of them up. And he realizes that it's frozen, like it's cold. And he turns around and looks, and his wife is rolling on the ground. She went to the, Cindy, these guys are my hero, by the way. Cindy went to the grocery store and had put big plants in there so Alan would go out and see it. And she was rolling on the ground laughing at him, right? How demoralizing is that? He needed therapy. It's okay, Alan. We're not laughing at you. Okay. Yeah. That'll be another day. Another day, brother. That was one of the best stories I've ever heard. But you know what it tells me? Now, he's a great gardener. He did get a crop. If you think that it's coming up overnight, somebody's fooling you. If you think you can have the life that God wants you to have and there's not going to be a struggle, you're a flash in the pan. Can I tell you that? Somebody sold you a bill of goods. If you have the Christian life with no struggle and no suffering and you don't have to be strong and you don't have to do the work and all of a sudden Solomon's temple just appeared, you got a mirage is what you got, right? You got frozen vegetables in the ground. They ain't real, right? Because see, God, he doesn't work that way in I'm really sorry to say this, in anybody's life. You don't get to skip the rule of the harvest. You don't plant and then reap it right away. And if you do, you're going to learn a really bad lesson that you're going to just be a flash in the pan and God's just going to be up and up and up and you just think that's the way life's going to go. It ain't going to go that way. There is a season where you have to be strong and do the work. And then, if you do not give up, you'll reap the harvest. I love what Winston Churchill said. He said, "We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. And we shall fight in the hills. And we shall never, never, never surrender." Can I tell you why I said that? I just wanted to do that once. I just want to be able to say that once in my life. That is an amazing plumb line. But that's not the message for today. Now, I want to do the message for today. I won't take too long. You know what that means? Nothing. I'll take as long as I want. That ain't the message for today. I wish I could stand here and be Winston Churchill and we will never, never, never surrender. You know, dig deep, be strong, do the work. Oh, I got that. I think that's important. I think perseverance is one of the great aspects of the Christian faith that's 100% true. But if that's the only message you get today, you're going to walk out these doors and you're going to get it wrong, just like I've done. I know about being pushy. If anybody knows me, you know why I'm pushy? Because I've learned in this life you have to take what you want. You got to cut your own path. And if you don't, it will not come to you. 100% true. I believe that. I believe that's a plumb line. And if you're not willing to go for it, you know what? You're going to sit on the sideline, you're going to die, and it's just where you're at. I believe that with all my heart. That's a plumb line for me. I think God showed me that. It's perseverance. That's not the message for today. You ready for the message for today? How long you got? No, I'm just playing. There's one more piece to that verse. It says this: be strong and do the work, for I am with you, declares the Lord Almighty. If you miss the I am with you, you'll be pushy. You'll get what you want. You think you know what you want. You don't. It only works if he is with you. And some of you guys, you don't know how to be strong. And you don't know how to do the work. Today I'm going to I want you to have the keys to the kingdom, because you have no idea how much you're part of this story from Haggai. This ancient book is about you. This temple that he built was about you. By the way, they did. They built the temple of God in Zerubbabel's lifetime. In Joshua's lifetime, they built this temple. And it sat up there on the mountain to represent something. And years later, hundreds of years later, the feet of the Lord Jesus Christ walked into that temple. And in that temple, so many symbols that you see. If you don't understand the Old Testament, you will never understand the New, because all the types and shadows were about him. Every piece of that temple represented him. And he looks to them, and we know that he is the temple of God, because he looks at them and he says, I will tear this temple down and I'll raise it up in 3 days. And they thought he meant that temple. And he's like, I'm not talking about physical temple. That's just a type and a shadow that points to me. And when he died and he rose from the dead, then they understood what he meant. This is the temple of God. I am the kingdom of God. That's what Jesus is saying. But I got to tell you another piece of the story, because maybe you don't understand where you fit. Really important today. On the day that Jesus Christ died on the cross, the veil in the temple was ripped from top to bottom. Now, you might not know anything about that, but there is a place inside that temple that's the Holy of Holies, where the Ark of the Covenant of God sits. If you watch Raiders of the Lost Ark, you kind of get the idea. Okay? If you touch the Ark of the Covenant, watch the Raiders of the Lost Ark, that's what would happen to you. Okay? The glory of God would jump out and kill you. It was not something to be taken lightly. It was never uncovered. But when Jesus Christ died, there was an earthquake, and it ripped that veil in the temple from top to bottom, meaning from God to man. And the Shekinah glory of God no longer resided in the Ark of the Covenant. On the day of Pentecost, Jesus waited. And on the day of Pentecost, the same glory that was in the Ark, you know where it indwelled? In the believers that day. On that day, it entered the apostles like tongues of fire. If you read the book of Acts, you'll see it for yourself. Acts chapter 2, that's exactly what happened. And Peter goes out with power that he'd never had before. It's the power of God. And later on, we find out, you know what he says? Where is the temple of God? You know who the temple of God is? Do you know? He says, your body is the temple of God. Now, if you said that to a true Israelite, they would stone you to death. Blasphemy. The temple of God is there. No, that's not the temple of God. You are the temple of God, but not because of you, but because of what indwells you. You see, it's what's in you. This is not New Age. It's not look within. It's that God fills you. You can't do it without you. I am with you. That's a big I. That's a big A. That's a big M. Have you ever heard that phrase before? I am with you. You know who else he said it to? Moses. You remember that? Who should I tell them sent you? They're not going to believe me, God. You tell them I am sent you. You see, too many of us are trying to be strong on our own. You see, be strong, I'm pushy, I can get my way, I can do my thing, I'm perseverant, but you're going to go to the wrong place if you're not doing this with the great I am. And he's saying, hey, how are you going to do this? You see, in the day of Solomon, I blessed his socks off and he had all this gold, but you, Zerubbabel, your temple will be greater than Solomon's. That's what God said. And nobody believes it. That's okay. You don't need everybody else to believe it. You see, oh, I see the problem here. You see, God identified it. He wasn't making fun of them. He was hitting on them. Everybody else says your temple's nothing, but I tell you, it's the greatest temple that's ever been. That's exactly what he says. Why? Because Jesus Christ was going to walk into that temple one day. And it's you, Zerubbabel. They're going to remember your temple for all of time. Because I am with you. See, there's too many ego trips. It's not about you pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps. It's not about you having the power to do this yourself. You have to fully depend on God. And the day that you do, here's what's going to happen. You're focused on what you're going to do, but you got to change your focus from your results, from what you're doing, from you being weak. By the way, you know what the New Testament says about that? When I am weak, then he is strong. You want to be strong? Don't think you can do this by yourself. That's the problem for strong people. You think you can, don't you? One day there's going to come a fight you can't win. Because you know what the Bible teaches? It says that Satan is like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. And somebody's here today and Satan has come in like a lion. And if I had the time, I could show you picture after picture of what lions do to their prey. You ever seen them? When somebody's all alone, they pick off the herd and they get that person all by themselves and he rips them to shreds. You ever seen it? This is disgusting. You know what's disgusting? I know, because I've had it happen in my life where Satan just, all right? You're there? Anybody? Just, I tried and I can't, and you just lost heart, and that's where you are today. And to be strong, it doesn't mean you be strong. It means something else. It means God is strong. I'm going to give you a verse, and you can look it up later for yourself. 1 John 4, verse 4. 1 John 4, verse 4. He says this, you, dear children, are from God and have overcome them, because the one who is in you is greater than the one who is in the world. Satan is a roaring lion, but God is stronger. Greater is the one that's in you. I am with you. How can you be strong? Because he is strong. When I am weak, then he is strong. You see, you take your focus and you put it on God. You see, somebody quit a calling that God called you to because it got hard. But you'll reap the harvest if you do not give up. But the only way you're not going to give up is to be properly motivated. And your motivation can't come from you. It's got to come from God. Now, if you don't know what to dream, go back and listen. We just did a whole series on Dare to Dream. You don't know what God's calling you to do, you better know. Because if it's just you doing it, you're going to quit one day. Or you're going to, here's the worst part. You may be strong enough to climb that ladder and be the success, and you're going to get to the top of Mount Everest, and you're going to look over the summit, and you're going to go, is this it? You know what? I did a lot of hard work, and I was so successful at doing the wrong thing. You're going to look, and all of a sudden, your ladder's on the wrong wall. You wasted your life because I am wasn't with you. You can be as strong as you want. Without I am, it doesn't work. You need God, okay? How do you do the work? I'll give you another verse. Philippians chapter 1, verse 6. Being confident. You know, I love that word because I've been praying and praying and praying from a word for the Lord. And then God said, it's not just for you, John, share it, because here's the thing. Somebody else needs confidence. Anybody lost their confidence? How do you be confident when you keep getting knocked back? How do you be confident when you look at your temple and you're going, I'm sorry, it's just not turning out very well. People are making fun of my temple. I got vegetables in the ground that are frozen. You know what I mean? Sorry, Alan. You get it. How do I not give up? Being confident. How do I have confidence to do the work? Being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Jesus Christ. Oh, wait a minute. I am with you. I am with you. The keys to the kingdom isn't you being strong in yourself. The keys to the kingdom isn't you doing the work by yourself. The keys to the kingdom is, I am with you and I will empower you. And the day you learn to get that stuff out of your life and you're going, well, what are you focused on? You see, some of us, you're focused on my progress. No wonder you got a problem. You're focused on your strength. You're focused on, oh, wait a minute, this is even the harder one, right? You're focused on, you were all good, just like me, until your two worlds collided. Now everybody knows. And they're making fun of you. And you can't stand it, right? It's done demoralized you. You have no more self-esteem because your self-esteem wasn't in I am. Your self-esteem was based on what other people say you are. Can I tell you something today? You're not who other people say you are. You're not even who you say you are. You're who God says you are. Then you can be strong. Then you can do the work. When you get in relationship with the great I am, when that happens, let me tell you something. You got the keys to the kingdom, and you will complete the work that he called you to do. You will have confidence when no one else does. You will be able to embrace the suck. You will fight and never give up on what God calls you to do. See, what God calls you to do. You'll reap the harvest when you do not give up, but you can only not give up when I am is with you. Now, that's not just in the Old Testament. Please don't hear me. When you start reading the New Testament, you are going to see this again and again and again. It is everywhere here. When Jesus finished the Great Commission, you know what he said? And lo, I am with you always to the very end of the age. See what he said? Here's your Great Commission. How do we do this work? Because it's going to get hard. You know what? There's going to be people, and there's going to be business meetings, and there's going to be Baptists. Okay, sorry. And Pentecostals and Catholics, and all of them trying to get along. Okay. Be strong and do the work. Be strong and do the work because I am with you. And when you get this, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. All of a sudden, you're going to rise up and you're going to go, you know what? I don't have to see the progress because God's with me. That's what Zerubbabel did. I don't have to be afraid of what they're saying anymore. I don't have to be scared because I'm picking up frozen vegetables. I don't have to be afraid that everybody's making fun of me because God has called me and I'm not going to quit. Not because of me, because of him. And you're going to see what God can do with your life. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Some of you guys needed that today because you're right on the brink. In fact, some of you already quit, didn't you? Let's just be honest. You're coasting already. You checked out a long time ago. Somebody said something mean and they offended you, and now you're just not serving anymore. Something bad happened to you, and you thought, well, that precludes me from ever being able to serve again. I'm going to sit on the background. I'm going to die on the hill, and I'm just going to go over here. And all right, somebody told you can't, even though God said you can. And today is the day that here's what you're going to do. You're going to shift the focus from how great you are. Because the truth is we're not very great, are we? We really apply more to Haggai than we know, don't we? The days of people in Haggai's days, Zerubbabel and Joshua, we're not Solomon. No, God didn't call you to be Solomon. Can I tell you what he called you to do? He called you to be better than Solomon. Oh no, you don't need the money. You don't need the prestige. You don't need the cheers. You don't need everybody chanting your name. You know what you need? You need I am. And you got him. You know what it says in the book of Ephesians? It says in Ephesians chapter 1, at the very end, it says that Jesus Christ will fill us. That he will sit on the throne, and he has all power, and God has given him all authority. And it says that the same power that it took to raise Christ from the dead is available to you. Did you know that? What are you doing living under your circumstances? What are you doing unmotivated? I can tell you what you're doing. You're looking at what's around you. You're looking at your circumstances. You lost your calling because you're trying to be strong in yourself and you're getting knocked down. That's okay. Now it's time to stand up with God. I am. Does that make sense? You know what I just read recently? Because I've been going through Galatians and Ephesians. And I just read a place where he said, I can do anything. I can do more than you can dream or think or ask if you'll only rely on me. Some of you, today is the turning point. Today is the day that you're going to be strong and do the work. Today is the day you're going to stop comparing, because by the way, God never called you to be compared to anybody else. I didn't call you to be Solomon. I didn't call you to have these things. You don't have what everybody else has. That's okay. You don't need it. But they're blessed and I'm not. I know, I didn't bless you that way. I blessed you this way. I didn't call you to the big city. I called you to Zunot. Okay. Got to work you in somehow. Well, let me tell you something today. God has a calling on your life, and he hasn't quit on you yet. And for somebody today, you need to know that I am with you. Some of you guys, here's your problem. You messed up so bad that you thought God can never use you again, didn't you? I'm divorced. I got a big A right here. I got the scarlet letter on me, right? Everybody knows I'm damaged goods, right? I struggle with sins that we don't want to talk about in this room, you know. You can't know the things that I've done. You can't know the mistakes that I've made. You're about to quit right before the miracle because God said, I don't need that. I can resurrect your life. See? You can't be strong. You can't do the work, but I can. And today, what you need more than anything else, you don't need to get fired up and we all get in a huddle and we run out with ambition. What we need to do is we need to get on our knees before God, and we need to be able to say, hey, you know what? I need God. Because here's what I know. If God is for you, it doesn't matter who else is against you. Can I tell you that? God doesn't need anyone else. God doesn't need anyone to tell him. God is not slightly intimidated because somebody made fun of him. By the way, God's not even nervous because you don't believe in him. He don't need your belief. You do. You see, somebody needs to hear the same thing I heard. There was a story that changed my life, and it was the story of the Count of Monte Cristo when he said, I don't believe in God anymore. And I remember the priest, and it's kind of bad theology in a way, but if you understand what he's trying to say, it makes sense. He said, oh, well, I see your problem. It ain't that you're believing in God, it's that God still believes in you. The day God doesn't believe in you, you're done, okay? Let me tell you something. I don't care what you've done, where you come from, what color you are, how bad you've been, what somebody did to you. God believes in you. He sent his one and only son to die on the cross. I would say that's believing in you. He died on the cross before he ever had your answer. You know that? Saying, here's how much I love you. Whether you love me or not, I believe in you. I love you right where you are. And today is the day that somebody, for the first time in your life, is after all of the hurts and all of the pains and all of this hurt that you've caused and all of the hurts that have been caused to you, God's about to reach through all of that. I am. And today is going to change everything. Okay? I can't contextualize it for you. You're going to have to do that for yourself. So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to pray with you today, if that's okay. Okay? Let's stand for prayer.